Team USA plays Chile at noon Eastern Time Sunday. All right, Neil, it's yours.
All right, Stuart, thank you very, very much. We are following a lot in this world, but the one thing I wanted to lead with was a reflection. No matter all the craziness going on and you just think the world is going to the dogs, look at Chewy, the IPO. See what I did there? Going to the dogs. It's cats, too, but food, little toys for animals online. Grew into be a multi-billion-dollar company thanks to its debut on Wall Street today. Came public at $22 a share earlier this morning, now a little bit north of $35 a share. This is a $10 billion company all of a sudden. That's a lot of chew bones and all that stuff. My dogs love it, you know. Anyway, they just said 2 paws up. All right, I'm done. But that's a very interesting sort of a reflection on where investors are placing value. We're going to get into that a little bit more later in the show. Obviously, front and center for the time being is the back and forth between ourselves and the Iranians over these oil tanker attacks. The Iranians saying, it's not us. We are saying, yes, it is very much you. Then what's going on in Hong Kong and gearing up for protests over the weekend that could make the crowds that swelled in Tiananmen Square a little bit more than 30 years ago pale by comparison. We hope it doesn't get to that, but it's obviously a reason why Asian markets are in tenterhooks ahead of that and what could be happening this weekend. Let's first address the Iranian tensions because they're escalating as we speak. Hillary Vaughn on all of that. Hillary.
Hey, Neil. Well, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying indeed Iran was behind yesterday's attack on 2 tankers, but Iran's foreign minister saying this is not true. The U.S. is lying. There's no evidence to back up this claim. But there is, because the United States military has video showing Iran taking evidence from the scene of yesterday's attack. In this video, you see Iran's Revolutionary Guard removing an unexploded mine from one of the oil tankers that it hit yesterday. Iran is denying that they were responsible for this, but the president this morning saying on Fox and Friends that this video shows Iran was caught red-handed.
Well, Iran did do it, and you know they did it because you saw the boat. I guess one of the mines didn't explode, and it's probably got essentially Iran written all over it. That was their boat, that was them, and they didn't want the evidence left behind. I guess they don't know that we have things that we can detect in the dark that work very well.
So the foreign minister tweeting this response to Mike Pompeo saying Iran was behind the attack. Zarad Zarif tweeting this, quote, that the U.S. immediately jumped to make allegations against Iran without a shred of factual or circumstantial evidence only makes it abundantly clear that the B team is moving to a plan B, sabotage diplomacy, including by Abe Shinzo, and cover up its economic terrorism against Iran. Now, Pompeo saying that Iran is lashing out and disrupting global oil markets because they want the U.S. to dial back its hardline stance that Pompeo says has been working very effectively. The president also saying that the Strait of Hormuz, this waterway that is used to transport a lot of oil, he says it is going to stay open, and he made that very clear to Iran as well. Neil?
All right, thank you very, very much, Hillary. We are getting some bulletins. Indeed, as Hillary was speaking here, this coming from the Arab League chief saying that the Iranians should reflect and reverse course right now. There's one big problem in the Middle East, and it is Iran. Also saying developments in the Gulf now risk deepening confrontations and urges outright restraint. Now, oil prices are up, but not that much on this. We're keeping track of it, whether that has any other effect on this. I think it's being mitigated by the prospect of trade tensions with China continuing. In fact, China has been summoning the U.S. envoy to offices there to talk about his Hong Kong criticism. More on that in a second. First, Edward Lawrence at the White House with what all of this might portend for trade talks. Hey, Edward.
Oh, yeah, a very messy situation going on here. Now, public officials in Hong Kong are now starting to call for a delay and reevaluation of the fast-track process that new amendment for extradition to China is on. Now, the amendment calls into question the one country, two systems philosophy that China's adopted to keep Hong Kong a financial center. Now, more protests are scheduled for this weekend. This past week, the protest turned violent. Some 80 people injured on Wednesday. Now, experts on China say that the law is threatening Hong Kong's financial stature in the region. Reuters reporting today that tycoons in Hong Kong are starting to move massive amounts of money offshore because of the amendment. One tycoon, according to Reuters, moving $100 million to Singapore. Now, China telling the U.S. to basically butt out. This is an internal China issue. A spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry highlighting the fact fact that Hong Kong is a U.S. trading partner.
Hong Kong's prosperity and stability are in the interest of the U.S. Messing up Hong Kong will do no good for the U.S. We advise the relevant parties in the U.S. to respect the basic facts, abandon arrogance and prejudice, immediately back off maneuvers to interfere in Hong Kong affairs.
And there are lawmakers here in the U.S. that are saying that they believe that it's wrong what China is trying to do. The State Department says that they have grave concerns over this extradition amendment. Now, it could complicate the U.S. trade talks. At the moment, the President Donald Trump saying that he will meet President Xi Jinping in less than 2 weeks at the G20 summit. However, China refusing to confirm that that meeting is going to happen. Neil?
Edward, could there be a possibility Xi Jinping doesn't come, citing the Hong Kong unrest as a reason?
Yeah, you know, and again, that trip is in question. We don't know if he'll even show up at the G20 summit. You know, I guess internally they could use that as an excuse for not going. But the President Trump here believes that President Xi Jinping is going to go because it's so close to China and that they will meet. So we'll have to see what happens.
He's threatened tariffs if he doesn't, right?
Exactly. And the president saying that he will add that $300 billion of imports, which is what's left of China importing under a 25% tariff, if there is no meeting or if the meeting goes poorly.
All right, Edward, thank you very much. Great reporting as usual, my friend. Just to let you know as well that the Chinese are returning the financial favor in the U.S. The more we heap our criticism on how they're handling these Hong Kong protests, the more they do things sort of to stick it to us. The latest sign is pulling back from U.S. real estate, saying that there are consequences for this type of acrimonious talk. Larry Kudlow has also threatened consequences of his own if China's Xi Jinping doesn't meet with the president at the G20 summit, even with the possible excuse Xi Jinping could cite this unrest in Hong Kong. Fast-moving developments here. We've got the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs under Bush 43, Ambassador Lincoln Bloomfield. Ambassador, very good to have you.
Hi, Neil. Thanks.
Where is this going? I know it's an easy sort of thing to sort of say, large crowds amassing in the center of a city. You think Tiananmen Square, the 30th anniversary recently, and now this. Are the two similar? How would you describe it?
Well, look, that situation shows us that the deal that was made when Britain left Hong Kong has been violated. The goalposts have been moved, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. It's a big picture strategic issue that China is creating authoritarianism and they're spreading it to the Uyghur region in the West and to Hong Kong, and they're threatening Taiwan. And I just think that we should never lose sight of the fact that freedom is the single most important thing that we represent, whether it's in the East Asia or in the Gulf.
Do you think, Ambassador, that it's possible the Chinese don't even care what we think? They don't care at all how this looks across the globe, much as they didn't 30 years ago. And that was before they became the super economic power they are today, but that this might end quite violently.
I don't know how it ends, Neil, but my view of authoritarian regimes is the one thing that they care about is their vulnerability. They are not legitimate. They're not there by the votes of all the people. There are 80,000 protests a year across China, of small and large. So I think we have to be aware that the Chinese #1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5 priority is staying in power for a long time. So you could say that means they don't care. It means we have to have a policy that looks at where their Achilles heel is, and they should know that we understand the lack of legitimacy and that authoritarianism, repression, keeping people silent, you can make them rich, but if they can't think for themselves, they will rebel at some point. And this is going to happen in a bunch of countries. It already has. So that's really our high card, is the freedom, the ability to run a country where people are free and can make their own decisions. It's a little bit messier, but it's way better, and that's what China's afraid of.
You know what's interesting, too, Ambassador? I think at its core, China remains obviously a communist dictatorial state. And they like capitalism, obviously. They like that they've been delicately balancing that. But at its core, when the core is threatened, you know, they'll dispense with the whole free capitalist society thing, even though it's anything but.
That's right.
Even if it damages themselves, because holding on to that power, keeping that government power is paramount. What do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, you could peel the onion, and at the core of China is a love of their own culture. It's loyalty to family. This goes back thousands of years, and so we respect that. They have their own culture. Deng Xiaoping said, let's loosen up on economics. Let's give people a chance to prosper, but we'll keep the political control. Now we see them investing in what? $500 billion in surveillance cameras and data banks so that they can track you and me and everyone else, every single person we've seen, everywhere we've went for the past week, all of our online activity. That is not acceptable. That's not a world that you or I or any American would live in. So we've really got to think about that strategically. And the goal is not to go to war with China, but to try to find a way to move forward so that they move a little bit closer to us, learn how to be more of a free country. I don't know how we do it, but we can't have war in this century. What we need to do is converge our interests. And I hope that the president and Xi Jinping have a real conversation about that. Look, but Xi is worried. He wants to be emperor for life. He wants a third term. He wants his economy to be up, and they're going to turn all the dials, all the money dials, to help him get there. It wouldn't work that way in a free country.
Yeah, and he is known for saying, don't tolerate dissent. It breeds still more dissent. So we'll watch it very closely. Ambassador, thank you very much. You also have a preview of what's going to come up this weekend. It's obvious that the Chinese authorities, those that do its bidding in Hong Kong, have said there shall be no public demonstrations. They're watching the crowds, but the crowds aren't going away. Protests are planned throughout the weekend. We are live on this tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time on Fox News Channel, following these developments half a world away, because it could have a big impact here. Some are saying the uncanny resemblance to Tiananmen Square is very, very scary. They hope it doesn't repeat itself. That maybe in this environment where China's already an economic powerhouse, 30 years ago it was on the verge of becoming one, will sort of tame its militaristic response. But all bets are off. We're on it for 2 hours tomorrow, beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern time, with live coverage from there, around there, and everywhere. In the meantime, stocks are on pace to still be up this week despite all of these tensions. Agora financial market strategist Alan Uckman says there's a reason for that. We've also got Fox News contributor John Layfield. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. You know, Alan, you always hope, markets notwithstanding, cooler heads, calmer heads prevail. Right. We know from the history in China that's not always the case, but that they're hoping that's the case. What if they don't? I don't want to give the worst case scenario. All bets are off, right?
Well, I think that the market priced in the worst-case scenario, but we had a healthy rebound and a great reversal last week where we made new swing lows and a higher weekly close. That's how bottoms get put in. We were only 2% away from the all-time top in the S&P, so it's been almost a full V recovery that we've seen many, many times before. I'm standing in an interest rate pit right now, and I'm looking above me. The market's pricing in a half-point cut here in July, so that should be beneficial to the stock market, and I think that could add to the upside. But we all know what's out there. We've all lived this now for going on 2 years, so I think we're kind of comfortable with the possibilities. But like you said, smart minds should do the right thing when it comes down to it in the end.
Interesting, you know, John. As Alan said, you look at the markets. If they're panicked about this, they're not showing it yet. Now I know you've reminded me. You're a good market historian yourself. There could be black swan developments. Maybe what's going on in Hong Kong right now. Maybe what's happening, you know, around Iran. So either one, both of those could dislodge this. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think they could. Right now, look at the Chewy IPO. Look at what happened with Lyft. I know it went down afterwards, but how much interest there was in the Lyft IPO. There's a lot of money out there chasing yield right now, and there's not much yield in the world. So you have emerging markets have not been good. Germany has had problems with their manufacturing index, was terrible in this last reading they had. You also have Brexit. You have China that has problems aside from the tariffs. So the United States market, the NYSE and the NASDAQ are the best places right now to get yield. And so it's masking a lot of things that are out there. I think there's a lot of fractures developing in global trade. Now, this could be ameliorated and it could be fixed, but there's also a potential downside to any of these factors, and much less if you have a cascading effect of one domino knocking down another. We could be in for a rough patch.
You know, Alan, the worry is that, and this is where the half-full glass comes in, that the worse things look right now for China, the more it pushes them toward a deal with us to mitigate that damage. They just saw factories growing at their slowest rate since 2002, and some of the latest data, virtually the majority of which has been softer than expected, happening more rapidly than expected, and that will ultimately compel them to keep things calm in Hong Kong and furthermore to score a deal with us. What do you think of that?
Well, maybe, but let's remember that their GDP is still at 6%, double
That's
what
right.
we do on an annual basis. So their numbers, well, they have backed up. Their stock market has performed extremely well, better than ours here in 2019. So if you look at those as metrics, I don't know. Again, I think common sense should come into play at some point. But what I really am encouraged by is the fact that we don't have specific objectives on what a good trade deal looks like. So I think anything that we come up with, you can call it a win, and we can move on and just claim victory. So that could be very much a positive, and the markets continue to do what they've been doing for the last 10 years.
So let me flip it around then finally with you, John. I mean, there is an argument that the worse things look for China, the better things look for us. You're going to seek out a safe haven. The United States has proven that, and we benefit. Our markets, that is. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. Look, the place to go right now in the world right now, you don't want to go to China, not because of the trade wars. Look, they're doing a lot of things to prepare for a very long trade war, which could be a new normal. But right now, the best place to invest is by far in the NYSE, the NASDAQ. It's just, there's just not competition out there as far as yield that is going on. And as much problems that we have with our trade war, which could escalate, the best place by far still to be is in the United States.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you both very, very much. Again, the market down about 46 points, so this is a rather tame response. Certainly you don't see it in any of the new offerings of late. The latest, of course, to be is Chewy.com, the online food provider, pet food provider, pet toys, all the rest. My German Shepherd, Brittany, they love it. They love the company. They were very happy. I don't know if they got a piece of this. They wish they had, but it's up about $11 right now from its $22 a share offering. They're very happy about that. So there is that after this.
Live from Pebble Beach, special coverage of the U.S. Open. Melissa Francis brings you all the highlights plus unique insight tonight on After the Bell.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safely. But Allstate actually helps you drive safely with DriveWise. It lets you know when you go too fast and brake too hard, with feedback to help you drive safer, giving you the power to actually lower your cost. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
Arby's $5 meal deal is the perfect bag lunch. Any of these sandwiches with curly fries and a drink for just $5. Arby's, you're the best mom ever. Arby's, we have the meats.
I'm feeling good.
Make the most of your business card with Vistaprint.
I'm feeling good.
500 standard cards start at just $9.99 with code BCNOW.
I'm feeling good.
Own the now with Vistaprint.
Hands-free driving isn't the future. It's the present. Celebrating 2.5 million miles of true hands-free driving with the available Super Cruise driver assistance feature. Super Cruise. Another innovation from Cadillac.
Let me ask you something. Can the past help you write the future? Can you feel calm in the eye of a storm? Can you do more with less? Can you raise the bar while reducing your footprint? For over 100 years, we've been answering the questions of today to meet the energy needs of tomorrow. Southern Company.
Fact, we all love video doorbells. Voice assistants have changed our lives. We now control our home with a touch. Indoor and outdoor cameras help us keep watch.
We want to guard our digital lives.
And hold tight to our loved ones everywhere.
Now you can bundle and save up to $3.99 on ADT's best technology. Call today and customize a package that's right for you.
Introducing the all-new Speed Wash system from Generac, the ultra-fast way to pressure wash. The Speed Wash features best-in-class 3,200 PSI cleaning power and puts pressure control right at your fingertips. Dial it up to blast away the toughest stains. Dial it down for a more delicate wash. The Speed Wash system includes 3 cutting-edge cleaning tools. The Power Broom cleans decks and driveways up to 4 times faster. The Turbo Nozzle blasts away grime in half the time. And the Soap Blaster soaps it up faster. And right now, for a limited time, you can have all 3 of these game-changing tools for free.
To get the complete Generac Speed Wash system, call 1-800-795-4939. Free shipping is now in effect, and right now, for a limited time, you can get all 3 cleaning tools for free. Speed Wash models start at just $379. Order online at GeneracSpeedWash.com.
All right, the president is on defense over these foreign intel comments. Blake Berman is at the White House with the very latest on that. Hey, Blake.
Hey, Neil, it was a bit of a mess for President Trump earlier this week when he suggested that if Russia or if China or if another foreign entity had dirt on his political opponent coming up in 2020, that if nothing else, he would be all ears and open to it. The president is now walking back off those comments. Legally, most likely, that is not something one should do, that they should take that evidence or that information and turn it over into the FBI. Past Republican candidates have come out and said going to the FBI is something you should do, if nothing else. Most would say it is beneath the office of the presidency. But today, the president seeming to take a 180 on it when he called into Fox and Friends and he was asked about that very scenario. Listen here.
Of course, you have to look at it, because if you don't look at it, you're not going to know if it's bad. How are you going to know if it's bad? But of course, you give it to the FBI or report it to the Attorney General or somebody like that. But of course, you do that. You couldn't have that happen with our country, and everybody understands that.
The president has also been receiving some pushback for doing the interview with ABC News. It is, of course, Neil, the president's decision who he speaks to, when he speaks to them, what kind of interview he wants to do. But now there'll be a new person who makes the decisions, or at least will be a part of the decision-making process with all of the media appearances. Sarah Sanders will be the outgoing press secretary. She will hold that post until the end of the month here, and there's a big question as to who might fill her shoes. There are a handful of suspected candidates at this point, but you could also say, Neil, that the press secretary title at this point is just a label at that, and it's really more so an advisor to the president, as Sarah Sanders has been a close advisor to the president. Keep in mind, we've probably only had a handful of actual press briefings in the last 6 months or so. Neil?
Yeah, I think you're right that the president calls the shots. By the way, a very nice profile on you, young man, in Washington Life magazine. That was nice. I like the comment. You want your 2 little kids at least to maybe chill so you can sleep, but if not, I guess you said there's always coffee, right?
There is, I didn't used to drink coffee, Neil, until I had kids, and now it's like nonstop. Send it over my way.
There you go. By the way, young man, there'll be plenty of other vices you'll pursue as they get older. But
I'll leave that for you to tell me, Neil, off camera, baby.
Don't ask, do tell. Very nice profile and well-deserved. All right, in the meantime, former press secretary to the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, Mark Lauder here with this. Mark, it's a tough job being the press secretary in any capacity, maybe all the more so with this president, who is very, very focused on the message, how it gets out, and whether it does get out with the people and the traditions that we're used to. So is it safe to say that part won't change, no matter who replaces Sarah Sanders?
Well, I think one of the biggest differences with this president is that 90% of the mainstream media coverage is negative. And I want to contradict a little bit what Blake said, and I have a lot of respect for Blake, but Sarah's #1 job has never been to do the briefings. It is to deal with all of the messaging development and all of the responses that come out from the White House press shop, whether they come out via email, in other forms, just talking on reporters in the room or in her office, which is something that I know so well. I mean, I spent quite a few hours every day in Sarah's office when I was in the White House, and most of that job is not about the briefing. It's more about dealing with all of the incoming requests and dealing with the various things that the president is also dealing with.
Mark, I mean, I was wondering about the timing of this. A lot of people said that she had telegraphed her interest to leave some time ago. Maybe that is indeed the case, but it comes only a day after this controversial George Stephanopoulos interview, only a week after the ill-timed interview the president had here on Fox, that made him a little bit late for these Normandy events.
Role, and in fact, we were.
Would he blame her? Oop, all right. Don't know what happened there, but we lost him there. But again, this kind of talk has been dismissed by the White House, but the timing is interesting, coming over the last week with these two controversial incidents. In the meantime, we're looking at the Dow down about 39 points. Chip makers particularly getting hit hard today, especially over one big one that is saying this Huawei ban, it's going to cost it a lot of money. And right now, the whole sector is losing a lot of money. More to this.
Many U.S. tech companies are global leaders. In this constantly changing sector, it's hard to know which companies will gain, maintain, or lose industry leadership. So why choose? The Technology Sector Spider ETF offers the diversification of the entire technology sector of the S&P 500 while minimizing single stock exposure. The Technology Sector Spider, the next chapter in investing. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully.
It's unpredictable.
Should government be involved in this at all?
Essential Money Talk on Bulls and Bears at 5 Eastern with in-depth conversation on today's hot issues. It's the show you love with the pros you trust. Bulls and Bears, 5 nights a week, only on FBN.
We are a place for men to find products that help them express their personal sense of style. I'm Jerry Hum. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Touch of Modern. We take a much more design-focused approach to what makes each product unique. So being a digitally native brand, when we started with television, it was just an experiment, and very quickly actually ended up being our biggest portion of our marketing spend. If I were advising another company, I would tell them to test TV out, but as a competitor, I would tell them not to.
Introducing the first of its kind Lexus UX and UX F Sport. Also available in hybrid all-wheel drive.
Lease the 2019 UX 200 for $329 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Introducing the only $5 meal deal in the entire world that has Arby's foods in it. Arby's, we have the meats.
This is a call to America's innovators and achievers. It's time to work smarter and faster than ever before with steel. The precision of Zeckelman Industries makes it possible. Our industry-leading products, manufacturing excellence, and advanced e-commerce and logistics technologies will help you build America's future better with steel. Let's get to work.
Can we talk? We used to play so beautifully together. Now we can barely play anything, even cards with the girls.
If you have bent fingers and can't lay your hand flat, talk to your doctor. It may be Dupuytren's contracture. Your hand is talking. Isn't it time you listened? There are non-surgical options. Take the first step and learn more about Dupuytren's at factsonhand.com.
Beltone, a global leader in hearing care, is introducing a new rechargeable hearing technology. To find out if you're a candidate, schedule an appointment to have your hearing evaluated. If you qualify, you will be asked to try the remarkable new Beltone Amaze. This small device delivers unparalleled sound quality. It is virtually invisible and comfortable. Call 1-800-BELTONE now to hear sounds, words, and conversation more clearly. And stream music and phone calls directly to your hearing aids from your favorite electronic devices. Call 1-800-BELTONE today.
Now playing free on CuriosityStream.
The internet is no longer a network of computers and servers. Now it's a network of things that know us.
Digits and more great shows are now available for free viewing on CuriosityStream. Brought to you by ADT.
Fact, we all love video doorbells. Voice assistants have changed our lives. We now control our home with a touch. And you know what's better than all these things by themselves? All these things combined from the most trusted name in security, ADT.
Right along with the real heroes. Every call, every emergency is a life on the line.
Watch an encore of Fox's First Responders Live, Saturday.
All right, its effects are far and wide, and for Broadcom, much broader than we thought. It catches a cold because of this Huawei ban, and the rest of the industry well, is also sniffling, and that is probably an understatement. Jackie DeAngelis of the New York Stock Exchange with more on that. Hey, Jackie.
Good afternoon to you, Neil. And this is having a spillover effect in the market today. As you said, Broadcom cutting its sales guidance by about $2 billion, citing China trade tensions and specifically the ban on doing business with Huawei as one of the problems. And one of the interesting things about this is that this is the first company who can actually say, here's what this is going to cost us. And Wall Street is really worried that the rest of the semis are going to come out and say similar things. So companies like Skyworks, Xilinx, Micron, AMD, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, they are having trouble today. In fact, the semiconductor index is down just about 3% as well. Now, Huawei saw a loss yesterday of about 8% in the session after hours when this announcement came out. It's down today about 7%. And it's estimated that Huawei is a little bit more than 4% of Broadcom's total revenue. So that's roughly $900 million. It's a lot of money when it comes to this company, that ripple effect across the other companies as well. And the fear on Wall Street is Broadcom has to make this cut. Look for announcements like this to continue down the line, Neil.
All right, Jackie, thank you very, very much. In the meantime, going from bad to worse, I'm not talking about what China's dealing with now going on in Hong Kong, but of their economy slowing down. In fact, seeing its slowest growth since 2002. Now, putting this in perspective, their idea of slowing down might be a dream for us, and that is if you buy the numbers coming out of China. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal's John Bussey here on what impact the trade war, I guess we can now call it a war, is having on them.
Yeah, and you're right to have suspect of the Chinese numbers to begin with, right? So they're saying somewhere between 6 and 6.5% growth rate is their target for this year. Who knows if that's, maybe it's, 3% or 3.5%. We just don't know whether the numbers are accurate from China. But it's slowing down. Some of that has to do with the tariffs. Some of it has to do with the fact that China was kind of on again, off again, slowing down over the last year or so anyways. And it's been trying to stimulate the economy, and some of those measures haven't played through.
All right, let's talk a little. The imports were affected. They're getting less from abroad, but it's not affecting their exports, which is obviously the source of contention with us. Does this push them closer to a deal? Because the language and the threats they're using don't indicate that.
Yeah, James Arity has a good story on this right now. I
saw that,
WCI.com. Exports are flat, not good for an export economy like China's. And you're right, imports are down. And they have all sorts of measures that they can still use to further stimulate the economy. When I lived out there, they called them administrative measures. I think they still do. That's basically, the central bank calling up the bankers and saying, lend. Make sure that you lend to stimulate the economy, to put cash into the economy for building and,
they can do that.
Yeah, they can definitely do that. And this is the thing about a command economy. The problem is that they have rising debt. They're trying to get that under control. They have a shadow banking system that they're trying to corral. So they don't want to go too far down that road. Another way that they can address this is by devaluing the yuan, make their exports even cheaper, and that makes them more attractive to buyers. But you're going to run into political problems with the United States, over that if you devalue the yuan further than.
But if they're so poor now, the relations, they might figure, what the heck?
Why not? They're playing a game of chicken with the United States. Who's going to blink first? Is the economy going to get bad enough in China that they've got to blink on something that they don't want to, which is changing their economic model? Is it that serious yet for China? Probably not. Or are they going to wait to see what happens in the election? Maybe it's a new president, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe they're waiting it out. There was a story, I think, in the Financial Times last week to that effect. They're unusually interested in these presidential polls and seeing the president, oddly enough, trailing nationally against some of the prominent candidates by double digits in some cases, and in these battleground states. And they might be interpreting that, well, we can wait this guy out.
Yeah, I think the Chinese would make a mistake to conclude that this is a Donald Trump issue. It's a United States issue. Whoever comes in after Donald Trump may not use precisely the same means, may not use the same rhetoric, but there's a tailwind behind that president. Maybe Donald Trump, it may be somebody else. The tailwind is a business community that's fed up, allies who are fed up, general population of the United States.
But it was the business community, 600 companies plus, that responded today. This approach, Mr. President, scares us.
Yeah, well, and they're concerned about the use of tariffs for things like getting Mexico to change its immigration policy.
Don't use it for non-trade related. Yeah.
Right. It's not meant for that, and that's where you saw a upwelling of opinion out of the business community against what the president was doing. But what's happening in China, there's a feeling that they needed to have some action taken. So China may be waiting for the U.S. to blink, and the U.S. doesn't blink. In which case, I think the scenario we see is more spending, more easing of tax codes, pressuring the banks to lend more, a devaluation of the yuan to some degree. All of the traditional measures that China uses to prop up its economy will probably be deployed again.
Could I ask you about the wild card in all of this and what's happening in Hong Kong? This extradition law they put into effect obviously ignited crowds and a reaction I don't think the Chinese expected. I don't know how it's going to end, but it obviously complicates a lot of things.
Very much so. Very much so. I lived in Hong Kong for a number of years. It has always been prized by American business and international business as a free zone, separate from China. And the deal was, in 1997, one country, two systems. The extradition law, which hasn't passed yet, the Executive Legislative Council decided to hold off a vote on it as a result of the protest, would allow China to say, you've got somebody in Hong Kong, we want them back, we're going to take them, and they're going to get tried in China as opposed to in the Hong Kong courts. That scares everybody because there's no rule of law in China.
And so they get fear where they're going to go after those who speak out against China, and they're going to disappear.
Already done that with booksellers who were publishing books that they didn't like, and they suddenly disappear.
But do you think this has, I don't want to get fatalistic about it, like a Tiananmen Square ending?
I would say no, because Hong Kong's a different place. On the other hand, first off, business is concerned about this too. You're a businessman, you run afoul of China, they have a new extradition law with Hong Kong, you're in Hong Kong, they can seize you. That's scary. But for the people of Hong Kong, you've seen them stand up before. This has happened before with China. These are orderly protests. Yes, there's a couple of fringe elements. Maybe there's a tiny bit of violence. But for the most part, it is a public outpouring of sentiment against being part of the authoritarian structure of China. And Hong Kong's going to stick with that as long as it possibly can.
We just passed the 30th anniversary of Tiananmen Square, and the argument was then, when we were reviewing tapes and all that, they were warning people in Tiananmen Square the weeks before, clear out, and they weren't clearing out. They're similarly saying, planned protest is one thing, this sort of camping out is another thing, eerily similar.
Yeah, so Tiananmen was perceived by the Chinese as an existential crisis.
Right.
If you let this spread, and it was already spreading to Shanghai and other places.
That's right.
You were seeing protests in 1989, that we're going to lose control as the Communist Party of China. Hong Kong is not that. The clampdown on information in China is so severe now that there are a lot of people in China who don't know that Hong Kong is happening. So they can still isolate. Yeah, they can still isolate Hong Kong and keep it.
But you also want to keep
it contained.
Hong Kong under your thumb, right?
You would think. Well, you would think that they would want to keep Hong Kong free because it is a source of capital, is a source of prestige, it is a source of.
And they're very different than they were 30 years ago. They are now an economic power. They were emerging as one 30 years ago.
Right. And the thinking back when the takeover happened, was Hong Kong going to swallow up China, or was China going to swallow up Hong Kong? Well, guess what? China is swallowing up Hong Kong, but there's still value in Hong Kong as a semi-liberated, semi-autonomous zone. You would think that China would value that. They may not. They may see it as a sort of a pest, as a threat, and they may clamp down even further.
Yeah. One analyzer was doing it. At their core, they're bullies. Who knows?
Yes.
We shall see.
And a bully can feel threatened by the smallest of.
By the smallest things. John Bussey, thank you very much. Brainiac from the Wall Street Journal. I mean, uncannily pressing on a lot of these developments. All right, Elizabeth Warren wants to cancel student loan debt, and she has a plan for it. Actually, she has a lot of plans, and that is what's propelling her in the polls here, because she doesn't just talk the talk. She tries to do the math to support that talk. Now, conservatives can disagree, but there's no denying she's surging because of those details. After this.
Sharing horizons that are new to us. Watching the signs along the way. Talking it over, just the two of us.
As a top 5 global investor in commercial real estate,
It isn't business as usual. It's investing by example.
If my life is about making music, my drive needs to be all about hearing it.
You have to rely on your gear, the way it feels, the way it does exactly what you need it to do.
The F-Pace, how Jaguar
makes an SUV.
To all the medium rare dads, don't tell mom dads, and take one for the team dads. Happy Dad's Day from your friends at Duluth.
Arby's $5 meal deal is the perfect bag lunch. Any of these sandwiches with curly fries and a drink for just $5. Arby's, you're the best mom ever. Arby's, we have the meats.
So Jardiance asks, when it comes to type 2 diabetes, are you thinking about your heart?
Well, I'm managing my A1C, so I should be all set.
Right.
Actually, you're still at risk for a fatal heart attack or stroke.
Even if I'm taking heart medicine like statins or blood thinners?
Yep. That's why I asked my doctor what else I could do. She told me about Jardiance.
That's right. Jardiance significantly reduces the risk of dying from a cardiovascular event for adults who have type 2 diabetes and known heart disease. That's why the American Diabetes Association recommends the active ingredient in Jardiance.
And it lowers A1C.
Yeah, with diet and exercise.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
So, what do you think?
Now I feel I can do more to go beyond lowering A1C.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance today.
TrueCar is great for finding new cars. You're smart, you already knew that. But it's also great for finding the perfect used car. You'll see what a fair price is, and you can connect with a TrueCar certified dealer. Now you're even smarter. This is TrueCar.
We're the Nigerian brothers. John's been a professional trader for over 37 years, and Pete is one of the country's top 100 traders. On TV, we report on how we follow the smart money from Wall Street's elite, who have the massive resources to get market information before the rest of us. Their unusual option activity tells us what they're starting to trade. Our strategy uncovers why they're trading it and how to follow along for the biggest return. It works on stocks and options. It's the #1 way we choose our trades. Many of you ask, how can you do it too? So we laid out our strategy in our newest book, revealing things we've never revealed. And today we're giving some copies away for free. All you have to do is cover shipping.
Prefer video learning? Get John and Pete's new DVD for free too. Call 1-800-515-3322 or go to followthesmartmoney.com to get your free book and DVD. Call 1-800-515-3322 or go to followthesmartmoney.com now.
I don't know how you feel about Elizabeth Warren, but she has a lot of detailed policies, so she doesn't just talk the talk, she does the math behind that, and you might not like the math either. A $1.25 trillion student debt proposal that would help kids pay off their debt over the course of 10 years. Now, you will pay a lot of that, but again, dismiss her at your own peril, because time and again, with one issue after another, she puts pen to paper, spreadsheets of this. Some people say the numbers don't add up. Be that as it may, the details are there. Again, you might not like the details, but she's a force to be reckoned with, and she is rocketing up in the polls right now. To Campus Reform Correspondent Director Emma Michelle. Emma, what do you make of this? I mean, we can go back and forth on, you know, paying student debt, providing health care for all, Medicare coverage for all, whatever the other policies are she espouses. But she does go into details that apparently many Democratic voters find appealing. What do you make of that?
Well, Elizabeth Warren's words right now that she keeps saying are, I have a plan for that. And there are a lot of people that appeals to them. But what's really dangerous about this is when you break down these plans, like you mentioned, there's a lot of flaws here. We know that when the government pours money into systems, they tend to just become bloated. And that's why tuition has skyrocketed so much since the federal government started subsidizing these loans for students. It's common now to see 18-year-olds taking out 6 figures of loans just to go to college. And this is a crisis not necessarily only of price, but of value. This is causing college degrees to become devalued. And this is a problem that really means a lot to young people. Millennials, Gen Z, these are some of the largest voting blocs in the country. So it makes sense that she would try to appeal to them. But this is a very scary thing to see because we know that these ideas do not work in practice.
Well, I know much of it in this case is targeted at the upper 2%. They'll pay for this. Presumably, the thinking is that the rest of the folks are not, and then that will make it appealing, and that the money covers it. Now, others have crunched the same numbers and said you can't get there going after the same 2% you're going after for providing health care for all and all the rest. You eventually run out of other people's money, as the saying goes. What do you think of that?
Well, I definitely think that's true. It's not right to try to force the top 2% to subsidize programs for everyone in this country. That is not the proper way to do things. That's not what America's about. But also, this is a dangerous lesson to be teaching young people, is that when you make financially irresponsible decisions, that it is the government's job or the top 2%'s job to come in and bail you out. And it's not just going to stop at student loans. I mean, why would it? What happens when people buy a car that they can't afford, or they take out a high interest credit card and they're not able to pay that back, and then it becomes, well, I have a right to not be in debt anymore. It's important to see where the logic will go, and I think that's exactly where this kind of thing heads.
All right, Emma, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Emma Michelle. Meanwhile, Facebook right now is on a list that it doesn't deserve to be on, so it's been removed among those ethical companies that used to be in a separate category all their own. What happened and why after this?
This program is brought to you by IBM. Let's put smart to work.
My ideal cloud, it has to work like air traffic control. It's got to let new data integrate with data from our existing systems. Be able to pull from reservation platforms built 20 years ago. And also be able to use apps to book super personalized trips on shiny new phones from the future. Plus, I need freedom to move my workloads wherever, whenever, but manage it all from right here. And that's the cloud I want. Simple, right? Expect more from your cloud. IBM Cloud.
Under this buttonwood tree is where people first gathered to form the stock exchange, which brought people together to invest in all the things that move us forward. Every day, Invesco combines ideas with technology, data with inspiration, investors with solutions. Because the possibilities of life and investing are greater when we come together.
What's going on up here?
Can't see what it is yet.
What is that? That's a Blazer? It's a Chevy Blazer?
Oh, this is dope.
This thing is beautiful.
I love the lights.
Oh man, it's got a mean face on it.
It looks like a piece of candy.
Look at the interior. This is nice.
This is my sexy mom car.
I would feel like a cool dad.
It's just really chic.
Love this.
It's gorgeous.
I would pull up in this in a heartbeat. I want one of these.
That is sharp.
The all-new Chevy Blazer speaks for itself.
I don't know who they got to design this, but give them a cookie and a star.
Your devices are terrible with secrets.
Some people use their names as passwords.
What? Stop the blah blah. Use NordVPN. Keep your online data secure and private. Download now.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to GoodRx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for, and bang, you've got half a dozen or more choices in front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with GoodRx, I save even more money.
What? I was paying how much?
And it's absolutely free. No cost to me whatsoever.
I get to save $1,180 a year with GoodRx. This is awesome.
Thursday, Fox brings you one of the biggest prizes in game show history.
$23 million.
From executive producer Justin Timberlake and host Dax Shepard. Spin the Wheel premieres Thursday on Fox.
Welcome to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
The star shines bright.
And it is all on display tonight.
As the best in the majors come together to celebrate the Midsummer Classic.
All right, let's do this. They're going crazy at Progressive Field.
The MLB All-Star Game, sponsored by MasterCard. July 9th on Fox.
To a child battling a critical illness, a wish can feel like a dream. But it's so much more. Wishes are an important part of medical treatment. A chance for kids to see themselves differently. Wishes can give kids the strength to fight, to get better, to grow up. Where there's a wish, there's a way.
All right, it was a list Facebook was proud of being on. I'm not talking about the S&P 500, but I'm talking about a list of S&P companies that are deemed ethical. They do the right thing for people. Now taken off it. Robert Gray with the latest impact on that. What happened, Robert?
Well, Neil, you might say they were defriended from this S&P 500 ESG index, the Environmental, Social, and Governance Index for those keeping score at home. The global head of the index noted in a blog post that Facebook was dropped due to its low overall score in those areas. Reed Stedman wrote that Facebook's environmental score was strong indeed, 82 out of 100, but the social media giant got a 22 on social and just a 6 on governance, both of those out of 100. Facebook's overall score, 21, down from a 30 last year, but it was at 71 just back in 2015. Here's the reason, quote, privacy concerns, including a lack of transparency as to why Facebook collects and shares certain user information. The post citing Facebook's myriad privacy issues of the past 12 months. That, of course, more than 150 companies accessing more users' personal data than originally disclosed, the misuse of personal information, and the hacking of nearly 50 million accounts. Other household name companies were dropped from the index as well. That includes Wells Fargo, Oracle, and IBM. Now, Neil, separately, Facebook planning to unveil and launch a new cryptocurrency next week, and they've signed on more than a dozen companies to support it. This, according to the Wall Street Journal. Visa and MasterCard, PayPal, Booking.com, and Uber among them, reportedly investing some $10 million each. Now, even though cryptocurrencies haven't really gone mainstream, the companies, of course, attracted by Facebook's 2.4 billion monthly active users. Some of the companies may also verify transactions and maintain records of them, basically creating a brand new payments network. The digital coin will be called Libra and pegged to a basket of government-issued currencies in a bid to avoid wild price swings that we've seen in other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Neil?
All right, Robert,
maybe
thank
Zuck's sign is Libra. I'm not sure where that comes from.
I don't know either, but holy cow. I mean, obviously, the getting off the ethical list was one thing, but the crypto thing is obviously exciting Wall Street because the stock is up better than $3 a share right now. Facebook a little bit north of $180 a share, largely on that development. Thank you very much, my friend. Let's go to tech expert Lance Ulanoff on all of this. Lance, I'm wondering, the fact that the market just seems to shrug getting off an ethical list and seems to be focusing more on maybe venturing into new areas like their own Bitcoin technology or currency. What does that tell us?
Well, I'll tell you, Facebook is still strong. What do you say? 2.4 billion users. They beat revenue expectations the last quarter. I mean, there's still a big revenue engine. And it's one of the reasons that when Mark Zuckerberg sits in a board meeting, he really isn't removed or stepping down anytime soon because the business is going well, and I think that's what people understand. And also, consumers aren't paying attention to that list. I mean, consumers definitely know that there have been privacy issues that Facebook has bungled things in the last couple of years, and they're not going to forget Cambridge Analytica anytime soon. But they're still using Facebook. Millions, billions are still using it every day and making meaningful connections. And they also are aware that Facebook is trying to steer more into being more careful about their privacy. And they talk less about sort of moonshot ideas like plugging into your body for a connection to information, and really about connecting to each other in groups and managing your data better. So Facebook is trying to change the conversation, and maybe consumers are listening.
You know what I'm curious about, too, whether you throw the baby out with the bathwater if your goal is to remove Zuckerberg or to do so because Apparently, he was aware of these privacy invasions and other things when he said he wasn't. Some will go so far as to say he perjured himself when he was testifying on Capitol Hill. But that if you want him removed, you're going to do a lot of damage. It will hurt the company. It will hurt users. Right. And he is the founder. He is the guy who came up with the concept. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a risk. I mean, you know, both externally for people maybe who look to him as the leader, but especially internally where there's kind of the founder's mystique. You know, all of the programmers, all of the engineers, the people who work at Facebook, they look to Mark Zuckerberg. You know, he is not just a sort of a figurehead. He is the leader. He is a programmer. He understands this system deeply. You know, like so many of the leaders in Silicon Valley, you know, they built these things and had these grand ideas, could not see the future, had no idea what was really going to happen with the tools they built. What they used to worry about was amassing eyeballs and keeping a hold of them for as long as possible. Now they have to think of things like policy. And by the way, Mark Zuckerberg hates to set policy for people. He hates to think about that. He just wants to think about connecting people. So, you know, it's a difficult situation because he's not going to let go, but he's also faced with these challenges about having to figure out things that he never thought about in the beginning of building Facebook.
Yeah, all of a sudden you become this huge multi-billion-dollar company. He, of course, a multi-billionaire in his own right, and the times and the environment change. Thank you very much, Lance. Good seeing you.
It's a pleasure.
All right, well, the U.S. military believes without a doubt that Iran was behind those attacks, and that furthermore, Iran detained the tanker crew, one of which was attacked in the Gulf. So all of this evidence, we say, is building. How are the Iranians responding to this?
When your psoriasis is bad, it can be hard to see what's possible. But the possibilities become clear with Taltz, the first and only treatment of its kind offering a chance at 100% clear skin. With Taltz, up to 90% of those with moderate to severe psoriasis saw a significant improvement of their psoriasis plaques. Some even saw 100% clear skin. Don't use if you're allergic to Taltz. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. Increased risk of infections and lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor about infections, symptoms, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop, worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to. Serious allergic reactions can occur. See the possibilities. Ask your doctor about Taltz.
Your daily dashboard from Fidelity. A visual snapshot of your investments, key portfolio events, all in one place. Because when it's decision time, you need Decision Tech. Only from Fidelity.
Now playing free on CuriosityStream.
The internet is no longer a network of computers and servers. Now it's a network of things. Things that know us.
Digits and more great shows are now available for free viewing on CuriosityStream. Brought to you by ADT.
Fact, we all love video doorbells. Voice assistants have changed our lives. We now control our home with a touch.
And you know what's better than all these things by themselves?
All these things combined
From the most trusted name in security, ADT.
Arby's $5 meal deal is the perfect bag lunch. Any of these sandwiches with curly fries and a drink for just $5. Arby's, you're the best mom ever. Arby's, we have the meats.
Hey, no, I'm driving Dad to the hospital. He was just playing with Emma and he hit his head, but then he wouldn't stop bleeding and he got dizzy. Right, the blood thinner for AFib. How you doing, Dad?
I'll be okay.
Listen, we're pulling in. I'm gonna call you back. This is the third time he's been admitted with a serious bleed. Is this blood thinner really helping him?
I understand your concern. Your father's atrial fibrillation increases his risk for stroke. This is why you're on warfarin. But there is an alternative.
Another pill?
No, it's called Watchman. Watchman is a permanent implant that reduces the risk of stroke.
In a clinical trial, 9 out of 10 people who received Watchman stopped taking warfarin in 45 days. There are risks associated with the Watchman implant, including internal bleeding, stroke, and in rare cases, it can be fatal. Talk to your cardiologist so that you thoroughly understand all the benefits and risks to see if Watchman is right for you.
Learn more at Watchman.com.
Introducing the latest innovation in luxury senior and family bathing, the Elevate Bathtub. This revolutionary design includes a door panel that easily slides up and down so you will never stand on a wet surface again, and the bathtub drains in up to 10 seconds. For ultimate relaxation, turn on the heated backrest and unwind. The Elevate tub uses chromotherapy and air-jet systems to revitalize your sense of well-being. Elevate, the bathtub for all ages.
TrueCar is great for finding new cars. You're smart, you already knew that. But it's also great for finding the perfect used car. You'll see what a fair price is, and you can connect with a TrueCar certified dealer. Now you're even smarter. This is TrueCar.
You know, that must have been some long interview the president had with George Stephanopoulos of ABC. Some dribblings coming out here. The president talking about the Federal Reserve and interest rates, saying, quote, I've waited long enough, that is, for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. They have to do so now. He says we have great numbers. The companies are very strong. They're very liquid. Frankly, if we had a different person in the Federal Reserve that wouldn't have raised interest rates so much, we would have been at least 1.5 points higher. George Stephanopoulos says he is your pick. And he said, he's my pick. I agree. But, you know, we also have people in there who weren't my pick. But he's my pick, and I disagree with him entirely. As you know, it's independent. The 10-year Treasury yields are coming, in and out of 2-year lows on all of this. The Real Clear markets editor, John Tandy, on this. The president, again, John, expressing his frustration with the Federal Reserve. He said hiked rates, a couple of many times, and we would have much stronger growth if they hadn't done that. Do you agree?
No, I don't think there's any correlation between the two. That's the equivalent of Bill de Blasio saying, you know, apartment rents are too high in New York. I'm going to lower them. Does anyone think that would result in apartment abundance in New York City? Obviously not. Well, all an interest rate is just the price of accessing resources. The idea that the Fed can somehow lower the cost of accessing trucks, tractors, computers, desks, chairs, buildings is just not serious. We live in a world of globalized credit. If the Fed were a fraction of as powerful as so many assume, the U.S. economy wouldn't be worth talking about, and we wouldn't even care who's at the Federal Reserve.
The president goes on to say, John, again, referring to the Fed chairman, if he did the interest rate increases half as much, if he didn't do tightening means taking money out of the till so that people can't use it for doing what they're doing. We call it quantitative tightening. If he didn't do it, I'm paraphrasing here, we'd be a lot better off. Would there have been, to your point, any measurable difference if he hadn't?
I don't think so. Let's remember that the Trump economy has been, by the Trump administration's own statements, booming. And I would agree that many things the administration has done has been good for the economy. Well, the Fed has been raising rates since what, 2013, 2014? And so the idea that suddenly this 1/4 point rate increase back in December turned an economy that they said was the best in a generation into something that was weakening just wasn't serious. I mean, I look at the New York Post in the past week. They noticed that Buffalo and Western New York is struggling. Is it struggling because the Fed's been tight in Buffalo? Could the Fed enhance Buffalo's economy by buying up bonds in Buffalo banks? No, it couldn't. What weakens Buffalo is that the talented move out there at the rate of 51 people a day. If you want to boost the economic growth, you lower taxes on individuals. You reduce the barriers to their production. The Fed can't alter reality.
But it can change the psychology, right, John? And now there's growing expectation that probably not at the June meeting, but in July, they cut interest rates. Normally, when people hear that, they start to worry, what does the Fed see that we don't see? But the expectation is that's all good. How do you feel about that?
Well, what does the Fed see? Has the Fed been right about anything in all the time you've been doing this show? Their projections about economic growth have been so wrong for so long. And of course, if these economists at the Fed had a clue about where the economy was going, they wouldn't work at the Fed, but they'd be making billions in the private sector. So I don't think it really matters what the Fed says. Let's remember, it projects its always overstated influence through banks that are a shrinking source of credit in the U.S. economy. They're about 15%. It's the least dynamic credit of all. Does anyone think that what the Fed does is of any import to what's happening in Silicon Valley, the most dynamic part of the U.S. economy? Of course it doesn't. And so the idea that the Fed, by fiddling with an interest rate, can alter the economic reality is just not serious. Furthermore, it insults the U.S. economy. It's the Republican way of saying, you didn't build that, the Fed built it. No, the U.S. economy booms because we've got the best, most dynamic people on earth. Let's stop insulting our economy by pretending we're reliant on a bunch of guys on Constitution Avenue in D.C.
So the president shouldn't even be mentioning them.
Of course not. I think he insults the good of his policies by mentioning the Fed.
You know, it is weird, though. Interest rates dropping as gold prices are soaring. Gold just hit a 14-month high. That is something you don't see every day. What do you make of it?
No, but remember, in the 1970s, the Fed was aggressively pushing up interest rates, and gold skyrocketed in the 70s. In the 80s and 90s, the Fed was pushing down rates, and gold plummeted. The Fed, contrary to what is believed, does not control the value of the dollar. But I will point out, you point something important. The gold price is at recent highs. That is the biggest danger to the Trump economy. When investors invest, and investment is the driver of economic growth, they are buying future dollar income streams. So when your policy, and presidents get the dollar they want, is one of dollar devaluation, you are levying a tax on the very investors who will power your economy forward.
But you're also looking at gold, flight to inequality, if that's what you want to do, as interest rates are sliding, which sounds a lot to me like stagflation.
Yeah, it's never good. Look at the Carter-Nixon era was a bad era for the economy. Gold, hard assets did very well. That's a sign that investors aren't investing in real ideas, that they're basically investing in consumption. Compare that to the 80s and 90s. Gold was plummeting. Oil was plummeting. The U.S. energy industry was non-existent. Did anyone care? No, because the U.S. economy was soaring. When the dollar is strong, investors are much more comfortable putting money to work in the most dynamic economy on earth because they know they won't face the tax that is devaluation. So it is very dangerous. I've told everyone I know inside the Trump administration, if you maintain the dollar, as Reagan did, as Clinton did, you will have a booming economy and a two-term presidency. If you pursue dollar devaluation, your presidency will fail, as Jimmy Carter's did, and as ultimately George W. Bush's did. A weak dollar is the worst thing you can do to economic growth.
Well, in the Plaza Accord in 1985, Ronald Reagan did lead this effort with his Treasury Secretary at the time to bring the dollar down. You're right, it didn't go far enough to crash the economy, but he did reverse course, right?
He did reverse course, and that was and that really ultimately harmed him. Think about it. If you don't have that dollar devaluation, if you don't have Jim Baker, the Treasury Secretary, talking down the dollar in October of '87, there's no way you have that crash. Let's never forget.
That's an interesting point. All right.
Yeah, investors are buying future dollars. If you devalue the dollar, you tax the very investors who power economic growth.
Very interesting discussion. John, thank you. Good talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, in the meantime, we're following these Iranian developments, sort of like a he said, they said kind of deal. We think they are behind, and we say we have the proof of this twin tanker attack, one of which they were found, digging through to retrieve a mine that hadn't exploded. Now, this was all happening at night, so they didn't think they were on camera. We have issues with that. The video is there. They say it's the Iranians trying to do all of this. Anyway, it's a mess. The Iranians say they had nothing to do with this, but the pressure is building, certainly among those in the Arab League and others, to make sure they pay for this. The former National Security Advisor to the Vice President, John Hanna, he worked with Dick Cheney. John, where is this going?
Well, it's right now going toward escalation, Neil. Whether or not the U.S. is going to trigger a military response to this is unclear, because the president clearly doesn't want to face a war going into an election campaign. But this is not the first incident we've had with Iran. There are now up to 6 incidents that have happened that are linked to Iranian-backed militias or Iranian-backed elements that are clearly trying to destabilize markets, generate crisis, and get the U.S. to back off these economic sanctions that are absolutely crippling the Iranian economy.
You know, we're getting other reports, as I'm speaking to you, John, and this is from U.S. officials talking to Fox News, that 4 tugboats contracted to pull the Norwegian-owned tanker Frontaltair, one of the 2 tankers damaged in this attack, have been prevented from doing so by Iranian gunboats that have surrounded this stricken tanker. And so to your point, it could be escalating. That's almost going to have to prompt an international response. What would it be?
Well, Listen, the highest end of this is obviously to send some of those Iranian boats to the bottom of the Gulf there, and hope that that then contains and deters the Iranians and backs them off, because the last thing they need is a force-on-force confrontation with the United States Navy. That's a suicide mission for the Iranian military. Their hope and their skill set is in that gray zone. Actions short of war that impose real costs and pressure on the United States and the international community, in the hopes that we're more afraid of war than they are, and that we'll back off. And the Trump administration just has got to keep its foot on the pedal, has got to stay steady, got to stay resolved, and importantly, get our allies in Europe and most importantly in the American Congress, the American people behind us, to develop a credible case about why we need to be opposing and confronting Iranian aggression here.
All right, John Hanna, we'll watch it closely. Good catching up with you.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, one foreign crisis isn't enough to deal with. There's China and there's Hong Kong, and China recently summoning our U.S. envoy there over his Hong Kong criticism. The Chinese have had enough. These protesters in Hong Kong say they've had enough. Usually that gets to be a problem after this.
Tonight, Maria goes one-on-one with real estate giant Larry Silverstein. Then, Donna Brazil brings Smart 2020 insight on WSJ at Large.
Introducing the only $5 meal deal in the entire world that has Arby's foods in it. Arby's, we have the meats.
Let me ask you something. Can the past help you write the future? Can you feel calm in the eye of a storm? Can you do more with less? Can you raise the bar while reducing your footprint? For over 100 years, we've been answering the questions of today to meet the energy needs of tomorrow. Southern Company.
What's going on up here?
Can't see what it is yet.
What is that? That's a Blazer? It's a Chevy Blazer?
Oh, this is dope.
This thing is beautiful.
I love the lights.
Oh man, it's got a mean face on it.
It looks like a piece of candy.
Look at the interior. This is nice.
This is my sexy mom car.
I would feel like a cool dad.
It's just really chic.
Love this.
It's gorgeous.
I would pull up in this in a heartbeat. I want one of these.
That is sharp.
The all-new Chevy Blazer speaks for itself.
I don't know who they got to design this, but give them a cookie and a star.
We're the Nigerian brothers. John's been a professional trader for over 37 years, and Pete is one of the country's top 100 traders. On TV, we report on how we follow the smart money from Wall Street's elite, who have the massive resources to get market information before the rest of us. Their unusual option activity tells us what they're starting to trade. Our strategy uncovers why they're trading it and how to follow along for the biggest return. It works on stocks and options. It's the #1 way we choose our trades. Many of you ask, how can you do it too? So we laid out our strategy in our newest book, revealing things we've never revealed. And today we're giving some copies away for free. All you have to do is cover shipping.
Prefer video learning? Get John and Pete's new DVD for free too. Call 1-800-515-3322 or go to followthesmartmoney.com to get your free book and DVD. Call 1-800-515-3322 or go to followthesmartmoney.com now.
My prescriptions used to be really expensive, but then I went to GoodRx.com.
It just works. You put in the drug you're looking for, and bang, you've got half a dozen or more choices in front of you of pricing and locations to get it.
You never think about shopping around for medication prices.
I have good insurance, but with GoodRx, I save even more money.
What? I was paying how much?
And it's absolutely free. No cost to me whatsoever.
I get to save $1,180 a year with GoodRx. This is awesome.
Your devices keep tons of data about you. When on public Wi-Fi, you might be exposing it to random strangers. Connect to NordVPN and keep your online data secure and private. Download now.
It's a great day. We got football, baby.
You spoke my language right there.
We've got celebrity guests one after the other.
Hey.
What a way to start the day.
It's incredible. Ooh. That's why we're the best.
First of all, I don't think anybody would present me with anything bad because they know how much I love this country. Nobody's going to present me with anything bad. Number two, if I was, and of course you have to look at it because if you don't look at it, you're not going to know if it's bad. How are you going to know if it's bad? But of course you give it to the FBI or report it to the Attorney General or somebody like that. But of course you do that.
All right, President Trump trying to clarify his controversial remarks on accepting foreign dirt on a potential opponent. Axios reporter Steph Kite on all of this. Steph, he's trying to put this to rest. It doesn't seem to be going to rest, but how's this all playing out?
Well, we've certainly seen both Republicans and Democrats come back after the president's comments saying that that this is wrong. Democrats have really taken this and run with it as another way that the president is being soft about this issue of being offered opposition research from a foreign political appointee. And we're also seeing Republicans, even Lindsey Graham, who's been supportive of the president, saying that if a foreigner offers you opposition research or anything of any value, the answer is no.
Yeah, that one surprised me because he was quite strong in that. Not surprisingly, so was Valerie Jarrett, of course. Barack Obama's long-term advisor was with him for the full 8 years. She was talking about this when I was talking with her just yesterday. I want you to react to this. The president is under some controversy today for saying to George Stephanopoulos that if he had dirt on a foreign entity or from a foreign entity on an opponent, he would listen. What do you think of that?
Well, I think by his own FBI director's words, that's something that you're not supposed to do. And why would we want anybody putting their thumb on the scale for our election, right? So you have to ask yourself, well, why would they be giving you that information in the first place? Because they're trying to affect the outcome.
But everyone wants to, right? I mean,
you want to win.
All right. I'm just wondering where this goes, how much of a political issue you're hearing it could be. What do you think?
I think everything is going to be a political issue at this point. And of course, you want to keep in mind that Trump is launching his campaign officially on Tuesday. And so this is the kind of thing, it really gives you a window into the way Trump thinks through what he's going to say in these interviews. He knew this was going to be a big deal to say, but he just doesn't care. He went ahead and said that, yeah, sure, he'd take opposition research. And we have seen him walk this back a little bit earlier this morning, saying that, you know, if there was something that seemed bad, he would go to the FBI. Which is, of course, what the FBI director has said that you must do. And earlier Trump said he was wrong. So we are seeing Trump start to walk this back a little bit, but we're also seeing campaign Trump come out where he's going to say things and not even think through how they might be read, but he believes that he can listen to opposition research. He's trying to defend himself and accusations coming from the Democrats. So this is obviously going to be something that Democrats can use against him, and something that a lot of Republicans are just trying to kind of move past.
But do you think he knew well in advance that answering that question the way he did would ignite the response that he predictably got?
You know, it's hard to know for sure whether he knew how big of a deal it would be, but he knew this was a controversial moment. This is something that Democrats have often said that he shouldn't have taken any meetings with Russians at all. No one on his campaign should have even taken a meeting with anyone offering opposition research on a political opponent. So he knew this was something that Democrats would likely get riled up about. It's hard to tell how much of an issue he thought it would be, but he seemed to not care. He said it, and this is what we see over and over again. You know,
Steph, you probably heard, Republicans are saying it's hypocritical of Democrats to criticize that when they leapt and paid for a dossier that was later disputed and thought to be ridiculous, that they all play these games and one side acting holier than the other. Is that how this goes?
Yeah, exactly. We have seen this been an issue, people pointing to the Steele dossier, saying that, Democrats are hypocrites. But of course, the FBI was involved in that. And now, of course, Trump is saying he would go to the FBI potentially. And this is going to become a political conversation with both sides pointing to the other, saying, oh, you're a hypocrite and this is illegal and you can't do that. So it's just opening up this kind of worms all over again.
Steph Kite, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. You've been hearing about all this fuss going on in waters around Iran and the Strait of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz. What have I told you? All of that stuff could directly impact your gas prices next time you fill up the tank, just on the fears that it could escalate, even if it doesn't. After this.
See, that's funny. I thought you traded options. I'm not really a Wall Street guy. What's the hesitation? I don't know, it just feels too complicated, you know? Well, share it first, but JJ can help you with that. JJ, will you break it down for this gentleman?
Hey, Ian. You know, at TD Ameritrade, we can walk you through your options trade step by step until you're comfortable.
I could be up for that. That's taking options trading from Wall Street to Main Street.
Hey, guys, want to play some pool?
I'm not really a pool guy. What's the hesitation? It's just complicated.
Step-by-step options trading support from TD Ameritrade.
Right along with the real heroes. Every call, every emergency is a life on the line.
Watch an encore of Fox's First Responders Live, Saturday.
Now playing free on CuriosityStream.
The internet is no longer a network of computers and servers. Now it's a network of things that know us.
Digits and more great shows are now available for free viewing on CuriosityStream. Brought to you by ADT.
Fact, we all love video doorbells.
Voice assistants have changed our lives.
We now control our home with a touch.
And you know what's better than all these things by themselves?
All these things combined
From the most trusted name in security, ADT.
The day after chemo might mean a trip back to the doctor's office, just for a shot. But why go back there when you can stay home? With Neulasta Onpro, strong chemo can put you at risk of serious infection. In a key study, Neulasta reduced the risk of infection from 17% to 1%, a 94% decrease. Neulasta Onpro is designed to deliver Neulasta the day after chemo and is used by most patients today.
Neulasta is for certain cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. Do not take Neulasta if you're allergic to it, or Neupogen, filgrastim.
An incomplete dose could increase infection risk.
Ruptured spleen, sometimes fatal, as well as serious lung problems, allergic reactions, kidney injuries, and capillary leak syndrome have occurred. Report abdominal or shoulder tip pain, trouble breathing, or allergic reactions to your doctor right away. In patients with sickle cell disorders, serious, sometimes fatal crises can occur. The most common side effect is bone and muscle ache.
If you'd rather be home, ask your doctor about Neulasta Onpro. Pay no more than $5 per dose with copay card.
Introducing the latest innovation in luxury senior and family bathing, the Elevate Bathtub. This revolutionary design includes a door panel that easily slides up and down so you will never stand on a wet surface again, and the bathtub drains in up to 10 seconds. For ultimate relaxation, turn on the heated backrest and unwind. The Elevate tub uses chromotherapy and air-jet systems to revitalize your sense of well-being. Elevate, the bathtub for all ages.
What's the #1 retirement stock in America right now? One man will give you a surprising answer. He's been called the most connected man in U.S. finance. Appearing on 60 Minutes, CNBC, and Fox Business, he nearly tripled his investors' money using a radical investment strategy that could make 2019 the biggest year ever for your retirement. He's hosting a free online event where he'll show you exactly where to put your money this year in what some experts are calling the most exciting financial event of 2019. Visit the website on your screen. There, receive a free online video describing the retirement secret that's made headlines in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Before it's too late, reserve your free spot for this online event. Again, just visit the website on your screen or text RETIRE to 246-810. Visit the website on your screen. Do it today.
Exceptional reporting every business day. Breaking headlines, smart investigations and insight, plus all the latest business buzz with complete coverage from Washington to Wall Street and across America. If it moves the markets, it's already on Fox Business Network.
All right, we say this, the Iranians saying this is not so, and the back and forth continues amid separate reports that say it's escalating again. Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin with the latest. What's going on, Jennifer?
Well, Neil, we've just learned from a senior U.S. defense official that Iranian gunboats are blocking 4 tugboats that were chartered by the Norwegians who own one of the stricken vessels, and the Iranians are preventing those tugboats from towing that stricken vessel away. So that is a situation that's developing as we speak. At first, the Iranians put out a press release saying that they had rescued all 44 of the sailors on these 2 disabled tankers after the explosions. U.S. officials now tell us one of the 2 tanker crews were in fact detained by the Iranians Thursday after first being rescued by another merchant vessel. One of the crew members spoke earlier today on Iranian state TV.
I am from Russia. The service was excellent. They have hosted us really well. Everything is fine.
We're being told that is basically a propaganda video. Only 23 sailors are present in this video, not the 44 that Iranians claim to be holding. The U.S. Navy says it rescued 21 sailors from the other tanker that was attacked. U.S. Central Command released this photo showing what it says is an unexploded mine attached to the hull of one of the tankers attacked outside the Persian Gulf Thursday. This video, also released by the U.S. military, shows what it claims is proof of Iran's involvement in the attacks. Officials say this Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard boat later removed that unexploded mine from the hull. The suspected Iranians are wearing life jackets, not bomb disposal gear, to handle live ordnance. The Japanese-owned tanker was damaged in the Gulf of Oman as Japan's prime minister visited Tehran. Iran denies it played any role in the attacks. U.S. officials say all 21 sailors from the Japanese-owned tanker were rescued by the American guided missile destroyer Bainbridge and have been treated and returned to their ship and are preparing to tow the stricken vessel back to port. Iranian vessels remain nearby, lurking around the damaged hull. Both tanker attacks took place roughly 20 miles from Iranian shores near the Strait of Hormuz, that strategic waterway where 20% of the world's oil flows each year. USS Mason, another guided missile destroyer, has been dispatched to the scene to ensure Iranian vessels stay away from commercial shipping. Officials say the unexploded mine removed from the tanker is the same type of mine used to attack 4 oil tankers last month in the same vicinity, an attack the Secretary of State also blamed on Iran. It's important to remember, Neil, that those 23 sailors detained by Iran have now been held against their will for nearly 2 days. Neil?
Incredible. Jennifer, great reporting. Thank you very, very much. Jennifer Griffin. Meanwhile, as if a trade war isn't enough for them to deal with, farmers in the Midwest are racing to harvest any unused land after very severe weather. Deirdre Bolton has more.
Neil, the farmers can't plant, so they are getting together. I should just preface this all by saying, normally by this time of year, you have corn at least knee-high, if not higher, but the ground was too wet to plant this year. So farmers gathered last night out of kinship, out of desperation, exasperation, frustration, and uncertainty. More than 100 farmers were at this restaurant in Illinois last night until the wee hours. And they were talking to one of our producers, Jason Racky. They said, "We want you to hear our voices." He stayed with them, Neil, till 3 a.m. Eastern time. So as far as what's going on in the markets and how we're seeing this show up, corn futures have really been so volatile this month. Most analysts that we were speaking to in Chicago, they say there's more to come on that because the final planting dates for both corn and soybeans have come and gone. So acres that were slated to be planted are not able to be planted. Here's what one farmer told us.
We have no idea when this is going to turn out to, but we do know the crop is far enough behind. This is totally unprecedented, and it's not going to be over next week. It's not going to be over in July. Nobody's truly going to know until after the combines are done.
Essentially, Neil, farmers are saying the weather has to be absolutely perfect from now until harvest time to get any kind of crop. Now, one decision farmers are discussing, decision to invoke insurance on a plot of land before even planting it. And the majority of farmers are moving in that direction. But some say it's just too late or too risky, no longer worth the cost of planting the land, because keep in mind, of course, they're still paying for seeds. They're still paying for machinery costs. They're still paying for manpower. One insurance pro that our producer spoke with told us this.
We get
pockets of it every year. Every year, I'd say we have 1 to 2% of our clients that have a prevent plant issue or potential issue. And like I said, this year it's over 90%. So we've just never dealt with it on this type of a scale before.
USDA, Neil, is looking into ways to allow the farmers who have been unable to plant crops due to the rains and waterlogged fields to qualify for farm aid payments. That is in the moment under discussion. Neil, back to you.
Incredible, Deidre. How much more can these farmers take, right?
I don't know.
All right, thank you, Deidre.
Sure.
All right, well, Hong Kong bracing for still more protests this weekend. After the Bell co-host Conall McShane in Hong Kong with the latest.
Well, Neil, we come to you on a relatively calm Friday evening here in Hong Kong. In fact, the last couple of days have been what you would describe as normal here in the city after a Wednesday that was anything but normal. That's the day when protesters took to the streets and forced debate on a controversial extradition bill to be delayed. Then the police moved in using tear gas and rubber bullets to drive the protesters away. But they would tell you they were driven away only on a temporary basis. In fact, the same group that has organized protests here over the last week says they're putting together another large-scale march, as it's been described to us, for Sunday afternoon. Local time here in Hong Kong, they'll be gathering at 2:30 in the same area that they marched earlier in the week, trying to force this extradition bill, which would allow people who are charged here in Hong Kong with a crime theoretically to be shipped back to China, mainland China, and be charged for that crime there. They're trying to get that bill shelved, but so far their effort has been unsuccessful. Carrie Lam, who's the chief executive here in Hong Kong and the highest ranking political official, has been pushing forward with the effort to push this bill through. In fact, she referred to the protesters as an organized riot in her comment the other night. So the world once again will be watching Hong Kong on Sunday afternoon, watching for any reaction to come out of China and seeing if these protesters can have any effect. Neil, back to you in New York.
All right, Conall, thank you very, very much. Conall McShane, now back to Iran and these the shipping rates and oil areas that are very much impacted and very much affecting oil prices. Not as dramatically as we thought, but the fear seems to be if it escalates, and we're getting some anecdotal signs it could be, then it's anyone's guess what the impact will be, particularly on gas. Gas Buddy's head of petroleum analysis, Patrick DeHaan, on what this could mean. What do you think, Pat?
Well, Neil, obviously this is a situation worth monitoring, and as your, I think, colleague reported, that, you know, perhaps more is about to happen in the days and weeks ahead, and that's really what the market's looking for. Oil prices are still lower than where they started the week, so motorists need not rush out to fill their tanks. But again, if these attacks escalate in number and size and severity, well, then we could see more of an impact to gas prices in the future. But keep in mind, on the other side, the IEA recently revising downward global oil demand, and that's keeping pressure on oil to move lower. But for now, gas prices do continue to move lower. In fact, 38 of the nation's 50 states are down 5 cents a gallon versus last Friday, and the national average now has declined to $2.69. That's the lowest level since March 30th.
You know, you got to wonder, in that battle, it seems the slowdown fears are winning out, but obviously you could have a panic attack for the markets if it looks like the Middle East is turning into a powder keg. How do you see this playing out?
Well, you know, obviously the U.S. Navy is headed to the situation. I think President Trump has taken ownership of gasoline and oil prices to a degree that perhaps he might want to look at more involvement. I mean, that's obviously a sticking point. U.S.-Iran tensions are already high, but perhaps that would play into his political strategy on how to deal with Iran. If Iran continues to make these threats and carry out attacks, maybe there's some diplomatic solution that he might take ahead of 2020, especially if oil prices start reacting more to these said attacks.
You know, as you've reminded me, I mean, I would doubt you in the past when you bring it up, Pat, and that is Americans don't seem to care. I mean, even when the prices jump, it's not as if they cut back their driving or buy more fuel-efficient vehicles, even though a lot of SUVs today are certainly more fuel-efficient than they used to be. They're not cheap to fill up. So what's driving them?
No. Yeah, you know, we have 90 good days this summer here. Neil, you're in New York. I'm here in Chicago. We don't get a whole lot of great warmth. So during the summer, Americans are incredibly resilient. You could have gas prices that breach $3 a gallon. But as our Gas Buddy summer driving survey found out a month ago, it doesn't really matter this summer. People are taking to the roads no matter what. And of course, you know, that is going to eventually perhaps push demand up. But in the light of this, just your previous story, farmers are suffering. That's less diesel consumption. I think there's a good story on both sides of the barrel here, and that's oil demand may decrease, but gasoline demand is going to remain strong this summer in the U.S., if not slightly lower than last year.
All right. Thank you very much, my friend. We'll watch it very, very closely. Patrick De Haan, a guest buddy, the head of petroleum analysis. He's been right through this pricing process, so we'll see. Knock on whatever. All right. Right now, we've got a debate set. We know the Democrats will be attending and those who won't. But we also know one who is surging with a lot of details on, well, surging government spending. After this.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safely. But Allstate helps you with DriveWise. Feedback that helps you drive safer, and that could lower your cost. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
Tariffs haven't stopped unfairly priced steel imports from flooding our shores, but domestic mills keep driving forward. Creating jobs, supporting communities. You have a choice. Choose American Metal.
Arby's $5 meal deal is the perfect bag lunch. Any of these sandwiches with curly fries and a drink for just $5. Arby's, you're the best mom ever. Arby's, we have the meats.
Did you know that Americans that bought gold in 2005 quadrupled their money by 2012? And even now, many experts predict the next gold rush is just beginning.
Today, the U.S. Money Reserve announces the immediate release of U.S. government-issued solid gold coins for the incredible price of only $139 each. These gold American Eagles are official gold coins of the United States and are being sold for only $139 each.
Pick up the phone and call America's Gold Authority, U.S. Money Reserve. With nearly 2 decades in business, over $1 billion in transactions, and more than 500,000 clients worldwide, U.S. Money Reserve is one of the most dependable gold distributors in America.
Today, the U.S. Money Reserve is releasing official gold American Eagle coins at cost for the incredible price of only $139 each. These government-issued gold coins are official U.S. legal tender made from solid gold mined here in America and fully backed by the United States government for their gold weight, purity, and content. Do not delay. Call now to purchase your gold American Eagles for the amazing price of only $139 each. Gold is now on sale at prices unseen in years. And this year could be one of the greatest gold buying opportunities of all time. Call now while vault inventory remains. As one of the largest U.S. gold coin distributors in the country, the U.S. Money Reserve has proudly served hundreds of thousands of clients worldwide. Don't wait another minute. Call now to purchase your American Eagle coins at cost for the amazing price of only $139 each.
Patients that I see that complain about dry mouth, they feel like they have to drink a lot of water. Medications seem to be the #1 cause for dry mouth. Dry mouth can cause increased cavities, bad breath, oral irritation. I like to recommend Biotene. Biotene has a full array of products that replenishes the moisture in your mouth. Biotene definitely works. It makes patients so much happier.
I'm really into this car, but how do I know if I'm getting a good deal? I tell TrueCar my zip and which car I want, and TrueCar shows the range of prices people in my area actually paid for the same car, so I know if I'm getting a great price. This is how car buying was always meant to be. This is TrueCar.
Why do you work so hard? To get ahead? To push yourself further? Is it to do what you love? Or is it for the ones you love? Is it to stay on top of your game? Or is it to change the game completely? Whether you're a startup or someone who stays up, join the millions who do more with Veridesk, the world's leading standing desk solution. So whatever you're working for, work elevated.
Well, it's a horse race, but it changes constantly. But it's an interesting snapshot for the time being because for now, Senator Elizabeth Warren is gaining traction, a lot of traction. And this after promising big spending, but more the details behind how she would pay for that spending. You would agree or disagree with her math or even her approach, but it seems to be resonating with Democratic voters. To former Hillary Clinton campaign finance team member Blake Rutherford, Independent Women's Forum Director of Policy, Hadley Heath Manning, and New York City Council Minority Whip Republican Joe Borelli. Blake, if I can begin with you, is it your sense that the reason why someone like Elizabeth Warren is registering is she's not only talking the talk, but she's talking about how she'll pay for that talk?
I think that's right, Neil. I mean, there's a certain attractiveness at this stage of the game for big ideas, and her mantra, you know, I've got a plan for that landed her on the cover of Time magazine is catchy, and so I think it's been able to both resonate with a core base of the Democratic Party, but also, as we've seen over the course of the last week, you know, really start to gain traction with new voters. She's siphoning off, it appears to be, voters both from Bernie Sanders and from Joe Biden.
You know, looking at all of this and her recent polls, she has been having the biggest surge right now, Hadley. Now, that could change. But the only thing I can get at is that she has been relentless in these details, relentless in being the wonk and embracing the wonk, even out wonking Bernie Sanders, no doubt, you know, someone she's admired, but she seems to have evolved for the time being as the younger face of his same message. How do you describe that?
Right, and there are so many candidates in the field. We ought to remind ourselves there's really not that many lanes in the field, and that's one reason why Joe Biden continues to be top of mind. He's sort of attracting more moderate Democrat voters, the center-left lane, if you will. Bernie Sanders has always had his own lane as the Democratic socialist. But what Elizabeth Warren is doing very successfully, I think, right now and gaining momentum for achieving a policy agenda that could unite the Democratic Party, maybe siphoning off some of the more moderate support from Joe Biden. And I think the economic patriotism agenda is a pretty transparent attempt to appeal to some voters who might otherwise vote for President Trump in his reelection bid, and also appealing to the crowd that is further to the left, might support Senator Sanders. When he gave his speech this week about democratic socialism, if you listened, it was a very ideological speech, very ivory tower about you know, opposing oligarchy and authoritarianism. But Elizabeth Warren is, to her credit, getting into the weeds on the policy details.
You know, Joe Borelli, the president is fond of making fun of her, Pocahontas, and all the other stuff. So he doesn't seem to fret her nearly as much as it would appear, let's say, a Joe Biden, who he trails in some national polls by double digits. He trails, I think, Elizabeth Warren by 3 or 4 in some. So maybe he is just dismissing her out of hand. What do you think of that?
I don't actually think that would be the right move. You know, she is someone who has now begun to differentiate herself from sort of the other candidates that I would put maybe in a second tier, you know, not Joe Biden, not Bernie Sanders. And she's doing that by sort of adopting, in some respects, a populist message and trying to appeal to a broader swath of the population. You know, the biggest criticism that she has is that she's not unique in. I mean, most liberals can't figure out how they're going to pay for some of the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed spending programs they want to come up with, but at least she is one of the few candidates in that second tier who's actually trying to talk about policy and not just going after Trump on impeachment and other things like that.
You know, that's a very good point. And Blake, something you touched on as well. Now, a lot of people who she targets to pay for that, upper 2%, that seems to be a theme that comes up in paying for, you know, college debt and to help, you know, people get health care for all or provide Medicare for all. It's the rich who she goes after. Whether that math ultimately does work out is anyone's guess, but does that boomerang on her?
I don't think so in a Democratic primary, Neil. I mean, she's not going to struggle by attacking the ultra-wealthy, or at least encouraging that the ultra-wealthy pay a little bit more for something that is popular, like lowering the cost of college or making health care more affordable, as we saw with Howard Schultz's, you know, just ill-begotten, nonsensical presidential campaign. The second he pushed back against that, he was all but dead in the water, and now I think that campaign has finally come to its end, fortunately. So I don't think it's going to boomerang on her in a Democratic primary. I do think that again, what the Democratic Party has to be careful of is not tacking so far to the left to win that they can't come back to the middle and capture, again, some of those Obama voters who then changed and voted for Trump, which is critical, suburban women, which is going to be critical, and voters in the Rust Belt, which is going to be critical if the Democrats are going to win. So that's the biggest problem here, and I think that's one of the concerns about Elizabeth Warren. I will say I think she is tempering that considerably by putting her ideas out there and putting her plans out there for the public to digest.
You know, Hadley, there's something we said, too, about Joe Biden sort of sitting on a lead, playing it cautiously, playing it conservatively. I mean, just the conduct conservatively, not politically. And he might regret that. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think that there's a warning both for Joe Biden and eventually for President Trump in this recent momentum surge for Elizabeth Warren. And that is, when we're talking about these policy ideas, the debate between the right and left tends to be, you know, here's Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, universal child care, you name it. And critics of that plan say, well, how are you going to pay for it? But if she provides the details about how to pay for it, then we need to really address the other arguments about why it might not be best for government to be in charge of raising children from birth through age 5 or providing health care for everyone, that replacing the options that we have in a private marketplace with one centralized government plan is ultimately going to result in limited access or lower quality when it comes to the things that we care about. So I think she's driving the policy debate right now, but it's certainly something for other candidates like Joe Biden and eventually President Trump to be thinking about, that the counter message cannot simply be about money, but it has to be about the benefits of providing people with greater choice rather than one centralized government option.
That's a good point. And, Joe, I have to wonder, if I'm President Trump and I'm overseeing an economy that, you know, you could go back and forth on how great economy is, but it's certainly strong right now. Key demographics all looking at record low unemployment, and he's trailing nationally. Now, that polls change, and they might not adequately or even accurately reflect what's really going on, but you could make a convincing argument the president should be up double digits, and he's not.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the president was also losing just about every poll before he actually won the White House and won the presidency in 2016. And I think we're going to see a lot of the polls change after we watch this greatest hits of the Rat Pack debate, where all the candidates are trying to sing the greatest hits. Tax the rich, ban the cars, Medicare for all. You know, this is really going to be, in my opinion, Joe Biden's big moment to either gain or lose. And if he comes out there and he's apologizing for all of his past votes, his past mistakes, and people are just thinking of him in the past, they're not going to see him as the future of the Democratic Party, which is a problem that he's already been, you know, walking that fine line.
Joe, final word. Hadley, want to thank you. Blake, thank you very much for coming. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.
All right, first there's the Impossible Burger. Now, Tyson is launching chicken nuggets without the chicken, plant-based something. Apparently they taste, well, just like chicken. After this.
Orlando isn't just the theme park capital of the world. It also has the highest growth in manufacturing jobs in the U.S.
It's a competition for the talent.
Employees need more than just a paycheck. You definitely want to take advantage of all the benefits you can get.
2/3 of employees said that the workplace is an important source for personal savings and protection solutions.
The workplace should be a source of financial security.
Keeping your people happy is what keeps your people. That's financial wellness. Put your employees on a path to financial wellness with Prudential.
Introducing the only $5 meal deal in the entire world that has Arby's foods in it. Arby's, we have the meats.
Ancestry DNA is only $59 for Father's Day. And with new features and richer stories, it can show Dad where he's from and strengthen the bonds you share. It's only $59 at Ancestry.com. Give it to Dad for Father's Day.
As a top 5 global investor in commercial real estate, it isn't business as usual. It's investing by example.
The fight for border funding. Trump demands billions. Dems keep squabbling. When will Congress come through? Sebastian Gorka has insight tonight on Dobbs.
Why hunch over your old-fashioned walker or rollator when you could be walking upright with the UpWalker? The original UpWalker is the safer and more comfortable way to get you up and on your feet again.
The UpWalker is revolutionary. You're able to walk upright and get a normal gait because your balance is there.
Before, you just look down, so you just feel down. But with the UpWalker, you're straight, you're tall. It feels great.
You know, when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I felt like I was trapped in my own house. But now with the UpWalker, it gives me the freedom to do what I want to do.
He's enjoying life. His spirits are up. His confidence is up. It has given us our life back.
The UpWalker easily folds, adjusts to your height, and features ergonomic handbrakes, a sliding seat, and sturdy 8-inch wheels that glide over a variety of terrains. Your UpWalker is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee and comes fully assembled. Call now, and for a limited time, you'll receive free shipping, plus a free beverage holder, free backrest, and free carrying bag. That's over $100 in total combined savings.
It's a great tool to help people get walking independently. Patients can put their arms in the armrest. They look comfortable, they feel safe and secure.
I just want to say that I love this UpWalker. It's my miracle piece of equipment to get me mobile again and get me to take care of myself again.
The UpWalker comes in different models and sizes to meet your needs. Visit getupwalker.com to see if you qualify for a payment plan to fit your budget.
It's brought Mary's smile back again, and when she smiles, I smile.
So whatever your mobility issue, try the UpWalker today.
Call 800-208-3583 to save over $100. That's 800-208-3583. Call 800-208-3583. Act now.
All right, you're seeing a pop in Tesla stock. This might be the reason the company promising it's delivering 1,000 cars a day and around to a record quarter. Tesla stock responding to all of that today. We're also separately getting news from the White House that J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon met at the White House along with a lot of other big corporate honchos. Let me just see here. They include members of the Business Roundtable. We have executive officers, CEOs from UPS, Union Pacific, Steelcase, a lot of key financial and industrial players. They were talking presumably about the ongoing Mexico trade agreement, the USMCA, and how that's going to fan out, and their concerns about the China trade agreement, if it will ever come to pass, but that it was a productive meeting. That's all we know, and it just happened a few minutes ago. Meanwhile, round 2 of the U.S. Open is underway as we speak. World's top golfers gathering in a beautiful place, Pebble Beach, California. Jerry Willis with the latest. Jerry, by the way, an accomplished golfer in her own right. But anyway, Jerry, what's it looking like there?
I think you overstate. But at any rate, it is gorgeous here. Absolutely beautiful. We're going to give you a little mini tour in just a second. But first, to catch you up on the play here, it is Justin Rose, who is an Englishman, who is leading the pack. A great first round, a 6 under 65, tying the record for the best performance in a U.S. In a U.S. Open. Round. The only other person who has ever done that is Tiger Woods. We caught up with both of them, starting with Justin Rose today at the driving range. Saw a lot of fellows. We were up close and personal with both of them. Tiger practicing as well. We saw him practicing his putting. We saw him practicing with his irons. It was really impressive to see both of them out there working so hard. And of course, they were all out there this morning getting ready for today's second round of the U.S. Open. To give you a tour here of Stillwater Cove, just wanted to show you what's going on here. You can see 3 holes from where we are. Here is hole 6. Right here, you can see up on the hill, and then coming around, you can see 4. That's a fairway for 4. And then over here on my left, you can see 17. There are a couple of people standing up there on 17 getting ready to go. You can see the flag there all the way across. And of course, right here in this cove, people bring in boats. and this is how they come to the U.S. Open to visit. They don't rent a hotel, they don't Airbnb it. They actually just drive these boats in and then come right through here where I'm standing right now and join play. So it's a ton of fun here. We're covering stuff you'd never see otherwise if you didn't have our special pass, and we're here all day. Back to you, Neil.
Good for you, Jerry. Thank you very much. An enviable assignment at that. Jerry Willis at the U.S. Open. Meanwhile, Tyson Foods now joining the Meatless Parade, the company announcing chicken McNuggets without the chicken, or nuggets, if you will. Plant-based. So this appeal is real, and the use of it is spreading. To registered dietitian and nutritionist Mia Sin on what to make of that. Mia, very good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You know, in this rush for people loving this stuff, and I've tasted some of these new burgers that are out that they taste great. I don't know if they're any healthier, have any fewer calories, but I don't know what's in them. I didn't quibble. They were delicious, but I'm wondering what is, and are they better, more nutritional alternative?
So plant-based diets are on the rise, and these alternative meats have become really popular. And they're typically made with a base of beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains. These are foods that we should be incorporating to our diet. They're healthy, but in order to achieve that sort of meaty taste and texture, they're adding a lot too. So they can have added sugars, typically higher in sodium because they're processed. So but it's also lower in saturated fat, which is one reason that makes them better for us in a way, because saturated fat is the nutrient we want to reduce in excess because of its link to cardiovascular disease.
You know what kind of creeps me out with some of them? You know, when they wanted, in the burger's case, to make it look red and that it's bleeding or whatever. I don't know what they're adding, beets or something like that, but that begins to say, you're trying too hard to look like the real McCoy, and you're doing weird things to do so. Should I worry about that or no?
You know, as a dietitian, I'm always pushing real whole foods and kind of staying away from the processed stuff.
You and me both, kiddo. You and me both. But go ahead.
You know, our body knows how to digest it and absorb the nutrients that it contains. So, yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate for real whole foods when it comes down to it.
Is that right? So now, with the fact that Tyson, and they're big as you get, is looking at a chicken-less alternative to chicken nuggets, that sort of thing. And others are apparently clamoring to offer their own. This is real, isn't it? Now, do you think that this could mean the country's obesity rate, which is only slightly ticked down, could really improve now?
So there is research to show that when we incorporate more plant-based foods into our diet, we're lowering our risk of certain chronic diseases. It can help with weight management. So in that note, I see it as a positive thing that we're transitioning to more of those plant-based foods, but that doesn't necessarily make it healthier. Like we were saying, they add a lot to make it have that sort of meaty taste and texture. So as long as you're staying below the saturated fat recommendation, I think that meat can be part of a healthy diet.
All right. Mia, thank you very, very much. Mia and I are both into fitness, as you probably know. My watch is saying it's 10,000 steps. Oh, a day. A day. I didn't know that. Well, I'm more after this.
Under this buttonwood tree is where people first gathered to form the stock exchange, which brought people together to invest in all the things that move us forward. Every day, Invesco combines ideas with technology, data with inspiration, investors with solutions. Because the possibilities of life and investing are greater when we come together.
Arby's $5 meal deal is the perfect bag lunch. Any of these sandwiches with curly fries and a drink for just $5. Arby's, you're the best mom ever. Arby's, we have the meats.
Gold buyers alert. For over 30 years, the American Gold Eagle has been the world's best-selling gold coin. Today, the Westminster Mint has the 2019 $50 Gold Eagle made from 1 ounce of pure gold for just $1,349. Certified in perfect mint state 70 condition by PCGS. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale. 70 is absolute perfection. In 3 decades, only a few rare gold eagles have achieved a perfect 70 grade, with many doubling or tripling in value. Add this valuable gold coin to your collection at the exclusive low price. Call 800-301-3868 now and receive this beautiful book, Modern Coin Rarities, free with your purchase. The Gold Eagle arrives with free insured shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-301-3868. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
Introducing the latest innovation in luxury senior and family bathing, the Elevate Bathtub. This revolutionary design includes a door panel that easily slides up and down so you will never stand on a wet surface again, and the bathtub drains in up to 10 seconds. For ultimate relaxation, turn on the heated backrest and unwind. The Elevate tub uses chromotherapy and air-jet systems to revitalize your sense of well-being. Elevate, the bathtub for all ages.
2,000 fence posts, 900 acres, 48 bales, all before lunch, which we caught last Saturday. We earn our scars. We wear our work ethic. We work until the work's done. When it is, a few hours of shut-eye to rest up for tomorrow, the day we'll finally get something done.
Let me ask you something. Can the past help you write the future? Can you feel calm in the eye of a storm? Can you do more with less? Can you raise the bar while reducing your footprint? For over 100 years, we've been answering the questions of today to meet the energy needs of tomorrow. Southern Company.
Angie's List has everything you need to know to hire the right pro. Check a pro's reputation by reading verified reviews and browse special deals on home projects. Find all the pros you need to know, all for free. Go to angieslist.com today.
All right, you got twin crises around the world that could develop and fester this weekend. I'm not only talking about Iran, but these rallies that are planned over the weekend in China. We'll be live on these quickly developing issues, 10 a.m. Eastern Time.